Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Ledoux, and we today are here to talk a little bit about what I call the 3 C's of communication. About a year and a half ago, I was able to meet a person by the name of Max Ziegenhagen, and he is a PhD psychologist and did a lot of work around human connection. So, how do we come together as humans, and how do we create those great bonds, those great connections that we all love and cherish throughout our lives? He shared this model that I'm going to work on sharing with you today. And I want to take his model and kind of mold it into the concept of business transition and what you're really trying to accomplish in those business transitions, in a way, is to allow a person to come into the business, so create connection, sometimes shift connection, and ultimately shift your connection to the business so that you're moving out of the business at some point in time. So a lot of dynamics and a lot of movement in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my other screen here so that we can talk and I can also draw for you. And I have a little model here that we're going to work on. So start out with the 3 C's of communication. And his model basically is put together of 3 C's. First one is curiosity. So curiosity. Second one is conversation. So we'll write conversation here. And the third one is conclusion. So conclusion. And there we go. So if you look at this, what most people do in our country and in our world, we most of the time start with conclusion. And we're used to doing that. We're so used to hearing something on the internet or seeing something from a friend. And we automatically these days, it seems like we conclude, oh, that's true. Oh, well, that's exactly how it is. And the same happens when we're working with somebody. We get treated a certain way or they act in a certain way, and we make a conclusion, many times without very much information. Usually the conclusion happens and we don't usually, sometimes we'll go over here and decide to have a conversation, but not very often. Most of the time we stay over here in our conclusion. Why? Because we think we're right. So if you happen to decide that you want to have a conversation, you can do that. And then we come back over here, and sometimes our conversation will create curiosity. Because why? Because we have some new information, and the new information then helps us to become curious and want to understand more. When you go about this in this fashion, from conclusion to conversation to curiosity, that typically it creates an opportunity for conflict. And so conflict sits in here. You've got a big risk sitting here. Because if you've made a conclusion and you think you're right, to open up a conversation, especially if the conclusion is judgmental or negative in any way, such as, I don't think my son or daughter is doing a good job in the company, and I don't know if they're going to be able to make it as far as being my successor. If there's any kind of a conclusion that has a negative aspect to it, then there's potential for conflict opening up a conversation. And so most people will say, I don't want to go there. I'll just keep my conclusion. I'll just stay over here. Why? Because we don't have to deal with the conflict. But if our conclusion's not real and it's not correct because we've made it without a lot of information, then we keep ourselves in that mindset, and you keep yourself in that space, continuing to use that information as being judgmental. So Max, great Max, his thought is to always start with curiosity. So he wants us to always start with curiosity. Why? Because curiosity is an open mind. And if we start with curiosity, we start with what would be possibility. So what's possible? What's possible here? So let's take the idea of a transition roadmap. So if you're thinking about a transition roadmap, you could start over here with some conclusions that say, gosh, my business may not be worth much, or I'll never be able to leave the company because I don't have enough savings. I don't have enough money to retire and not work. Or I don't really know what my next adventure is. And so I don't want to leave because I don't want to figure that out right now. And I don't know how. So if we stay in this conclusion area, we keep ourselves stuck, because over here we're kind of stuck. But if you come over here to curiosity and we start here, curiosity is possibility. What's possible with this transition roadmap? How could it work? There's so many different ways, if you start early, so many different ways that a nice transition roadmap, a win-win for everybody, can come about. So if we start with curiosity, we can then at the right time have conversations. So we can have those conversations, and then at the right time, we can make conclusions, and we can make our own conclusions, but sometimes a conclusion can be made as a community, a conclusion to go forward, a conclusion on how you want this to work, where you're inclusive of others. So in this possibility area, you can think about how you want to evolve, how you want to evolve yourself, how the business will evolve, and how others around you need to evolve. Once you start these conversations, in these conversations are invitations, because we want to make sure that we're having conversations with people using an invitation. It's great if you can have some clarity. And instead of saying, hey, someday you're going to own this business, and making the assumption, the conclusion that everybody's going to want it and it's going to be their dream to run it, you talk and think about possibilities yourself. Then you have invitations and you ask, hey, would you like to join this company? Would you like to be a partner? Would you like to take the risk? Can you see a future with yourself here? And then wander over here to the conclusion side. We have a new program that we're putting together, and it is called Evolve. So this Evolve program is in place so that we can help people explore these possibilities, help them see the possibilities with their curiosity and how they're going to evolve the company, and then how they might have conversations and do some positioning, right? Because we want to position these conversations so that they're great for the people that are coming in. So we do that, have the conversations. And then once we have some of these invitations over here, then building a roadmap forward. So building a roadmap forward helps you to create the conclusions that you want, because in the roadmap are conclusions, and you want to create this roadmap that you want so that, again, the idea of a community coming together, that you'll create that roadmap and then go on that journey together. So going back to Max, how we are able to create connection with people is typically through curiosity. It's not through judgment. It's not through conclusion first. When you're going through your transition roadmap, and even when you're creating it, even when you don't know all the details and you're trying to figure out what it might look like and how it might come together, and you're nervous, still your curiosity is what is going to fuel you to get through this and get through it well. So starting with curiosity, go to the conversation, build the roadmap, and create that roadmap together so that you can create a community conclusion is just hands down the way to go. This model, if you keep it in mind, is a model that you can use in life. You can use it with your employees. You can use it pretty much anywhere with any friends, any children, because every time you have curiosity, you're able to put others first and not yourself. And one of the things that I've found in these transitions is that they can be messy, and there is absolutely fear without any question, because there's fear of loss, fear of not being okay, not having enough money, not having enough purpose, being pushed out of your job, being pushed out of your role, not being able to have happiness in your life. And, sometimes there's fear of loss of relationships. And I will tell you that in my 30 plus years of experience, the people who have the highest curiosity have a high regard for others. And when they start becoming vulnerable and they start sharing truly what their fears are and truly where they're worried about this transition not going well, that helps them to have curiosity about finding the best way forward. And as soon as they are able to get to that point and be open, which is challenging, those are the people that do the best at their transition. A lot of times they're thinking of others while they're building their companies. And as soon as they start to transition out of their company, they start trying to position so that they can be okay without the company. So they have to start taking care more of themselves. And that self-reflection tends to get in the way. So I just encourage you, this new Evolve program that we put together starts by helping you to figure out what might be next for you, and not that you don't have to have the answers, that you can evolve through it. And it also allows you to bring other people with you so that you're able to invite successors and invite people to come in, see that vulnerability, see theirs, and then move through it together. So with this 3Cs model, there's a lot of learning that can happen. And this model can be used anywhere with anybody. I personally catch myself making conclusions all the time, and I go, oh, don't do that, right? Because what it does is it stifles my ability to learn, and it makes it so that I'm not open-minded. And when I'm not open-minded, then I'm not able to understand the problem that I'm trying to solve. And I usually end up making an assumption. When I have a conversation, I end up with a potential conflict. And why? Because I made a conclusion, because I made an assumption, and it didn't quite align with the other person. So my connection with that other person, which is what this model is all about, my connection with the other person isn't clean. It's not great. Business transitions are not easy. They're difficult, and they take time. You don't have to have all the answers to get started. It's great if you can have curiosity to get started, because usually if you're concluding very much, it's hard to get going. So my wish for you is that you'll use this model and that you will take some first steps. Even if they're small, you'll start this journey, because this journey will pay off in the end. All you have to do is take one step forward, one step at a time. I'll see you next time.